to present a small, quick overview in terms of what Jain Online is and what Jain deemed to be university is. I'm Dhiman Ganatra. A warm welcome to you all. We represent Jain Online, and Jain Online is an entity under Jain deemed to be university, which offers degree programs in an online mode. And this all started with Ministry of Education realizing that going forward, online is something which India cannot stay away with. We started off bang in the middle of pandemic, wherein the Ministry of Education granted permission to 38 universities across the country, out of 1,000 plus universities, to offer online degree programs. These are basically degree programs offered in online mode. The words get interchanged. So online degree programs are basically degree programs offered in online mode. And we already have close to 23,000 learners on board who are pursuing various undergraduate and postgraduate programs with us. The delivery model is designed to suit especially working professionals in the sense that it does not hamper their Monday to Friday routine, and the prospects can concentrate on their career, can concentrate on their family or passion. The live online sessions here are held only on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. Even considering the fact that there could be a certain set of workforce which may not be really able to attend live online sessions on Saturdays or on certain weekends, all these live online sessions are recorded and are available on a platform on the learning management system throughout the semester. The biggest advantage here of pursuing a higher qualification is that the examinations, which is typical of our Indian system, these examinations are also held online. So it really does not matter where the learner is based out of. He could be inside the country, he could be outside the country, and any given point in time, he should be able to appear for the end semester examination from wherever he is. This is one biggest advantage that this mode of learning arrives at. And I'm sure in the last couple of days, you have had several press releases from the UGC, which you would have come across, where UGC itself has clarified, the minister himself has clarified that the degrees acquired through online mode are at par with degrees acquired in the conventional mode, in the on-campus or in the physical mode, as we normally call them. So just to give you a quick overview, at the undergraduate programs, we have Bachelor of Commerce and Bachelor of Business Administration. And at the master's level, we have the most sought after qualification, the Master of Business Administration, MBA. We have MCA, we have MCOM, we have MA in Economics, Journalism, Public Policy, Mass Communication, and even English Literature. So we try to cater to learners who are looking at upskilling, who could not for some reason add on a higher qualification during their academic journey, and now after n number of years of work experience would like to upgrade themselves in terms of a qualification. I'm sure the experience that they are deriving under you all as CEOs, mentoring them and guiding them is something which is unparalleled. But we are here to make a small effort to see to it that their experience translates into end of it's a certificate, right? But it's definitely a hand that we are lending out to upskilling the workforce that you have under you all. Nawab, are we ready with the video?
Yeah. Mr. Shijit, would you please share the video which we have shared with you?
Yeah, Mr. Srejit, one problem, we are not able to hear the sound. So what you can do is that you can stop the share and share it again. And on the before you share it, on bottom line left side, there will be share sound also. Right.
I'll continue to use this opportunity. I thank you all on behalf of our founder and chairman, Dr. Chenraj Roychan, for giving us this opportunity to reach out to you all And Jain Group of Institutions, we are based out of Bangalore. We are a 30-year-old education group. And yes, we have recently ventured out into this online e-learning platform, but we have that solid backing of 30 years of experience, especially into commerce and management, which we have been a front runner into. And Jain Deemed to be University is today rated A++. If you follow the India's ranking system, NAC, National Assessment and Accreditation Council, the highest grade a university can get is A++. We are one of those youngest universities. We are hardly 12 years old into a university setup. So we are that youngest university to have this rating of A++. We are also ranked among top 100 as per the National Institutional Ranking Framework, which is released by Ministry of Education year on year. Please share the video. I was just using this opportunity to reach out. Yeah, go ahead.
A successful future lies in the hands of the educated. Today, learners want to go the extra mile by pacing up with the latest technological advancements in the educational sector by acquiring the skills and knowledge that are essential and relevant to any industry. To achieve this, a need to establish an infrastructure that takes education beyond four walls has risen. Jain Online, an e-learning platform of India's top institution, Jain, deemed to be university, launched online degree programs that not only address the lack of education in using technology, but have successfully worked towards integrating education with technology. Jain Online created a framework where learners could upgrade their skill sets, broaden their knowledge, develop their intellectual abilities, and climb up the corporate ladder, all at the same time. With a broad spectrum of programs and multiple electives to choose from, Jain Online has set a precedence for online learning in India and is on its way to becoming the top academic institution in the education industry, carrying a credibility of over 30 years. Jain Group has been successfully delivering high-quality educational and entrepreneurial services to its learners and envisions doing the same in the future with all its glory and grandeur. Jain Online made it possible to deliver on what was not only the need of the hour, but the actual want of the hour. We made a massive splash into the world of online education and have made waves with our presence. Our campaign advertisement exceptionally conveyed who we are and what we do. We were printed all across prominent publications, both national and regional, even took social media platforms by storm. With our scholarship program, we made an earnest effort to reach our desired learners, keen on learning and making a difference. Millions of people saw our thematic films depicting how online education will serve both students and working professionals. We also ran multiple program-level campaigns and injected our social media followers with eye-catching content. Our communication paced ahead with our webinars, where we familiarized learners with multiple ways to grow in a highly competitive world. Our valuable partnerships have taken us global. Jain Online also serves corporate online learning, which delivers an on-demand learning experience designed as per the corporate needs to help them grow and thrive. We help companies of all sizes in upskilling, reskilling and training their workforces with high-quality professional development courses in subject areas relevant to their business today and in the future. Our idea is to make education more interactive, innovative, and most importantly, accessible. Get a degree anywhere, anytime, any device. UGC entitled online degree programs. Programs accredited with global professional bodies. Live sessions over the weekends from global faculty. Innovative learning methodology with cutting-edge technology. Online proctored exams. Access to 20,000 plus LinkedIn learning courses. Flexible fee payments. Dedicated program managers. 2,000 plus global hiring partners. learners from 43 plus countries. It all adds up. We are Jain Online.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Have a good discussions ahead. And I would leave you all with the thoughts that e-learning is the new oil. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
And thank you, Hemant and Bindu, for agreeing to partner with us. And Chamber will, of course, be ready to provide the industry academia interface for a successful program in online. Thank you and wish you the very best.
Thank you, sir.
Over to you, Prasad. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, President Harikumar. Hope I am audible.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this great opportunity. It is also very good that past presidents of the chamber, along with some of my great friends and gurus, are also here. Welcome, A.K. Nayar Saab, my friend Kartaji, Vinayan, and also I would be able to see from the list Sri Nayana and Philip, who is connected to me actually by another oil man of BPCL. Unfortunately, he is not with us now. Thank you, sir, for joining it. Srijit, I'm very sorry that this background I am unable to put for the sponsors. Even though I tried, I am joining from an iPad. I don't know how to do it, frankly. Sorry for that, Srijit. And thank you for all the coordination. Friends, Harikumar asked me a week back, can you speak on what is the future of oil? And I told him that the future of oil, if I know, I would have been a multi-billionaire by this time. Because I don't think anybody knows what is the future of oil. Even tomorrow's oil price, nobody is able to predict. This commodity is like that. That is the speciality of this commodity also. You know that this is the largest commodity in the globe, accounting for almost 3.3% of the global GDP. And it is now a complete part of the human life. If you take any part, daily you cannot escape without touching an oil or an oil product. That is a situation as of today, which happened in the last 170 years. But unfortunately, this oil, the earth has not distributed it equally. It is concentrated in few locations, and most of them become richer only by this commodity. Some of them we will see later as God themselves destroyed also by the same commodity. So very special commodity. The price volatility, the term which we are seeing almost on every day in the oil market and in our day-to-day life, is about not only about people like us who are filling our tanks with petrol and diesel, but it is for the nation. Some countries has got more than 85% of GDP is contributed by oil. And you can see what would happen if oil prices fall from $100 to $20 all of a sudden. Similarly, some countries like us, who is depending for almost 90% of the import, the impact it comes when the price is going up from $20 to $100. Inflation, many social unrest, all contributed by this commodity, which never ever behaved in the typical supply-demand pattern. It is always related to politics. It is always related to strategy. It is always related to some kind of cartelization, fixing of price. And this is the story of the oil. So extremely difficult to predict what oil is. But President, I suggest, or I believe that, let us discuss about the history, the initial days of oil, for us to reflect on how this evolved, and that give us some idea how it is going to be out of business, which we are all expecting that may happen in the next 50 years. But before I venture into discussing about history, I have few slides, 2 or 3 slides. I will request Srijit to share the slide number 2. For just let us be on the same platform. What is this industry means? Srijit, next one. Next slide, please. Srijit, next. So this is about this industry. industry is actually divided essentially into three parts: the upstream part, the midstream part, and the downstream. This I am sharing it now. As we discuss, we will be discussing about an upstream player or a downstream player. Upstream is nothing but the oil exploration and oil production, including the trial being done to identify the oil in the deep sea well or offshore, onshore. This is the most riskiest business of the entire value chain. Your predictability or your success rate is always less than 30% in the oil drilling business or while we are exploring for oil. Midstream is essentially the distribution of the oil, the crude oil, the pipeline, the transport, and these places are normally called the midstream, even though there are some gray areas, sometimes it is called downstream, midstream, etc. Generally, it is the transportation part, the storage part is the midstream. And the downstream, all of you know that converting this black oil into various usable products in the refinery, then also the retailing, the distribution, reaching the product at the end user. That is the third part, which is called the downstream part. So as I said, this is around the 3.8% of the GDP and almost 2.2 to 2.5 trillion dollars have already been invested in this business in the last 170 years. That much of investment this is because this is an industry with a very high gestation period. You need huge investment to get money out of it. That is the reason why it would be extremely difficult to see that this industry is closing down and another form of energy is coming up later. Unfortunate part for India is importing oil. We have no resources, even though we are claiming that we have no resources. And last year alone, we spent around this year, that is $110 billion of we are spending for importing. This is almost double compared to financial year 21. 21 is low because of the COVID related. The beauty is that the largest oil resource country is Venezuela. This is what I said. This is almost 18%, almost 300 billion barrels of proven reserve is in Venezuela. But unfortunately, Venezuela is one of the poorest countries in the world. So there are some countries, they don't know how to use oil profitably for the benefit of the humankind. And US continues to be a major player right from the day the oil business started. It continues that. They have got around 16.5 million barrels per day production and more than that of consumption. Saudi Arabia and Russia are the major producers and has got the highest influence of oil price in the world. Saudi Arabia as a leader of the OPEC and Russia as a member of OPEC plus. In essence, both together decides oil price. I am talking about which was the reality before Ukraine war, but really happened in 20s and 2021 during COVID time even. So this is the deciding factor. And China continues to be the largest consumer of at around 14.2 million barrels per day. So the growth, the consumption pattern, how China is going to transform from oil to other source of energy is also an extremely important deciding factor in the future of oil. With this, let me go to the history. Srijit, you can stop sharing, please. Stop sharing. Friends, this oil is known to humankind for a very, very long time. In Mesopotamia, that is the current day Middle East, there are histories which say that in 3000 BC, oil was actually found out and oil was started using. The bitumen was used for road construction was documented in those parts of the country in 3000 BC. There are some reports I read saying that even Noah's Ark and Moses' basket were waterproof with the bitumen. And there was natural flame which we have seen in many of the oil related places, including we saw in Assam, which we used to worship as an act of God. And this was one of the medicines used in the earlier days for our normal cough and those type of things. And also used as a fire in the warfare. This is something typical you can see in some of our old Indian historic movies also. Oil is being used as a source of weapon to create the fire. Probably you would have read in yesterday's media that the Ukraine president is asking his people to make this Molotov cocktail. This Molotov cocktail is nothing but a petrol bomb, a very old petrol bomb to fight against the mighty Russians. So this is still continues the use of oil as a warfare. But the unfortunate part about this industry is that this knowledge which was available in BC in Middle East never ever went to the West. It became very too late, maybe because of the communication, maybe because of the social dynamics of that time. It reached the attention of the West, the US, Europe, only in 19th century. So the actual story of oil as a business started only from 1850s. I will share with the 2 or 3 major events which influenced the oil industry. First, starting with US. The beginning of a major industrial setup in US started in 1850 when one investor group headed by a banker, George Beisel, commissioned a study with a chemistry professor, Professor Benjamin Salomon, just for $138. Their objective is they collected some oil oozing out of Pennsylvania and asked him to find out what is material, what is the property of this material. So he made a report for this $500+ and reported that this is a combination of many, many molecules. It can be separated by heating and it can be separated into various substances. By that time, the only product which was in use is kerosene, which we used for the illumination of the homes. That was there in a small way in US by that time. But this discovery that this has got many other uses, it can be separated, a good quality kerosene can be made from this by heating and separating. This has given a lot of courage and confidence to this investor team to go do it as a big business. So what they did is that they have commissioned another person called Colonel Edwin Drake. The discovery of oil is even now known in his name. He is not a colonel, but to give some kind of a credibility to the locals, he was given the name Colonel Edwin Drake. This investment group packed him with another set of people to a faraway remote village in Pennsylvania in 1957. So they were keep on sending money. The bankers, the investors were keep on sending money. 2 years, there was absolutely no result. Even though he started drilling, used the old salt drilling machines with a lot of modification, technology upgradation, there was no result. The investors became completely upset. There were a lot of questions. Some of the investors left the group. And finally, they have dispatched a letter to him asking for abandoning the project. Please come back, was the message. But before the letter reached him, on 27th of August, 1859, oil come out of this, rushed out of the well they were drilling. It was not an easy thing. You can understand at around 250 feet below, when they drill, oil started coming out with a full force, which they also never expected. So the issue was completely different. There was no place to store. Where to store this oil? Unbelievably high quantity of oil coming out. But that is the real relation between oil and barrel. On those days, the only storage available was our whiskey barrels. So they collected large number of barrels from wherever possible, started storing oil in barrels. That is why even today, the only product that is even measured, traded, priced is oil in barrels. Just 1 minute. I will just take 1 minute. Sorry. So the barrel has become a part of this industry by that. Even now it is measured in barrel, but in a refinery or in any other industry, even now it is not measured, but the traded in barrel, even though it is measured by other means in meter cube, it is always priced in barrels. That is the story of barrels. And in another 2 years, they had to arrange almost 3 million barrels to store oil. Then this oil became an useless commodity because there is no demand, no takers. The refineries were not having that capacity. And then they started building refineries around the place. And in New York, because this place was almost closer to New York, around 200 miles, we transported oil in barrels to New York and set up refineries. The same style of now to set up refineries in consumption centers. So that is the story. The initial oil was discovered. The rest, immediately after that, the American story is about one gentleman. We all know his name is John D. Rockefeller. At the age of 26, very dynamic, 6 feet 2 inch tall gentleman found out that there is a merit in this business. He put all his wealth, energy to create an empire out of this. He joined this industry, and in another 6-7 years, almost 75% of the refining capacity of New York was with him. He became the story of oil for the next 30-40 years in US, around the globe, is nothing but the story of John D. Rockefeller and his company Standard Oil. They become such a big company, and he was consistently the world's richest man for many, many years. And you know that in those times in US, there is a lot of issues against his competitive advantage, his lack of controls. So it's a lot of antitrust activities, anti-competition activities, all initiated during Roosevelt time. Roosevelt silently supported a long 8-year legal battle. And in 1911, until this company was dissolved by an order of American Supreme Court, this is controlling almost 80 to 90% of the US oil business. This is giving oil to all around the globe, including Europe. Europe also had around 60% of the capacity was controlled by Standard Oil. And this was dissolved into 7 companies called the Seven Sisters. And these 7 sisters, even now ruling the American, these 7 sisters are nothing but Exxon, the Mobil, the ESCO, Caltech, then Chevron. All these are the 7 companies, and they are also mergers, acquisitions, controls. But the technology, the capacity of not only the US, all around the globe, it is supported. So even now controlled by these 7 sisters. Even for India, to that matter, Vinay knows that the entire technology for refining capacity is given all these companies, whether the Chevrons or their sister concerns, who actually evolved from these 7 sisters. The intention of the American government was to have a lower wealth for Mr. Rockefeller. But what really happened is that even though his ownership was diluted, his share prices in all these 7 sisters has grown multiple times. So he continued to be the richest man of US for many, many more years. That US story continues. All of you know how much oil has got influence the political America even today. This time in 60s, the next major player, Russia, is also got attracted. The reason is very simple. Standard Oil sent the first kerosene tanker. That is not the tanker of nowadays. It is again in the barrels. And the kerosene reached St. Petersburg in 1960. So then Russian government immediately realized that there is a merit in this commodity. They immediately opened this industry for private participation. And the oil was actually available in large quantity in a place called Baku. The Baku is nothing but the capital of Azerbaijan now. In old days, it was in Russia. So there, many refineries came up, small players came up. Then the story of a second person, his name was Emmanuel Nobel. Emmanuel Nobel was already a underwater mine manufacturing company. They have already in the business of mine manufacturing. And his one son, Robert Noble, reached Baku and jumped into the industry by buying refineries around Baku. He has got another very popular brother. His name was Alfred Nobel, who made fortunes out of nitroglycerin, the so-called dynamite. And they have got a third brother who is called Ludwig. He is actually the brain behind all this business empire. And they have formed their first company called Nobel Brothers Petroleum Producing Company and become a very successful Russian company of that time. And they started giving Standard Oil huge competition in Europe. And all of a sudden, while they're growing at a very fast rate, in 1888, Ludwig, the brain behind their industry, their younger brother, died at the age of 57. So the media is even now like that, then also. So they reported that it is not Ludwig, it is actually Alfred Nobel who died. They are, maybe because of the communication, they said it is Alfred Nobel died. And the next day, the media reported that Alfred Nobel, the dynamite king, who found huge fortune by finding new ways of killing human beings, is no more. That was the title of the next day media. Completely depressed by this type of a news about his death. He has abandoned the industry, withdrawn from this, and also given the entire money created out of his oil and to the dynamite, the Nobel Prize and the rest of the story. All of us know about it. Let me also mention a third person that is on the logistic part. While this time, the trade between US, Europe, and Russia, ocean trade was already started in barrels. But the competition was so high, the logistic was becoming a deciding factor of the competition. Then there comes a third person. His name is Marcus. He is actually the son of a shell merchant. Samuel Marcus is his name. He is the son of a shell merchant. He has started designing, I'm cutting the story short. He started designing a tanker which can carry the bulk of product across the continent. Samuel Marcus has designed it. By that time, you remember that in 1870s, Suez Canal already opened. The telegraph link between London and Mumbai, the first telegraph being established, and many of the countries, the major cities were connected with telegraph. So there was a consistency, reliability, and predictability of international trade. So that is the time Samuel Marcos brought his new tanker design, and that has become a major game changer in the oil industry. And as a president said, Karta and all, thriving on this industry for many, many years, even now. That is the beginning of it. Suez Canal was normally initially locked for the oil trade because of the safety concerns, but when this new design came, they have also permitted. So this commodity become a really global trade. And his company is called Shell. This is named after his father's business, who is collecting shell from sea and selling it in Europe. And the story of Shell also, let me say, this is the first company recently. This is now a Netherlands headquartered company. Last year, or 6 months back, a Netherlands court asked them to cut the CO2 emission to half by 2030. From 2020 to 2030, they are supposed to cut the CO2 emission to half. The first major legal judgment against carbon dioxide emission anywhere in the globe. And each of the European nations, each of the major players, including refineries like us, are closely watching how the other courts are going to view this judgment. Shell is not going to, Shell is unable to comply. No oil industry would be able to cut the carbon dioxide by 50% without huge impact on their business. So what their initial response is shifting the headquarters from Netherlands to London, not initiating any action. But of course, they are cutting down huge carbon dioxide emission initiatives are there. So this is the story of oil in the three major continents of Americas, Europe, and Russia, and the discovery of oil in Middle East, other parts of the world, including Kuwait, including Shah of Iran, all because of the technology developed in these developments. Later, maybe 10, 20 years later, and the Middle East becoming a huge player. Only you know that in 1940s and 50s, and they have grown into really high wealth. But I also wanted to bring to your notice another major incident happened in between. That is, while in 1880s, the refineries are making standard oil, profits are jumping, everybody is attracted. A great person, probably the biggest genius of the earth, who actually monetized his inventions and made huge fortune. He was Thomas Alva Edison, invented the electric bulb. So that was a major discovery of that time. And in 1880, from his banker was JP Morgan. In the JP Morgan office, he switched on a lighting system which illuminated a part of New York, including the present day Wall Street is in that part. So that was a major demonstration that illumination can be done with another medium, which is not kerosene. So that was a great discovery. People were initially attracted because of the user friendliness, the safety, and all the parts. There was almost 18 million bulbs were in circulation after 10 years of this incident. Oil demand has come down, kerosene demand has come down. Oil industry was in deep trouble those times. You see that oil replaced by electrical once happened in 1880, which we are going to see in another 10 or 20 years. So this is once happened. And oil industry was in deep problem. Many refineries were closed down. Refineries were, production was cut off. But in 1902, there was a savior again came back, and that is by another person called Henry Ford. He was actually an employee of a Thomas Alva Edison's an illuminating company. He invented the IC engine technology and developed automobiles, the horseless carriers. It was named on those days. You know the story of he inviting the mayor of New York to inaugurate and to travel with him in his horseless carrier. Halfway through, the mayor becomes so restless and saying that this is not going to work. Bring my horse, which has got higher speed than yours. That story is even now being told. This Henry Ford actually revolutionized the mobility in the world. And it continues. Even now is a surviving company, thankfully. And this automobile is powered by gasoline, not by kerosene. So that discovery, the initial discovery that it has got various components, prompted the IC engine discovery, and IC engine came into force. Again, oil industry back to its glory, huge demand. The rest of the story, you know, the mobility, as Harikumar rightly put, oil has become a part of mobility also. So when mobility becoming from illumination to mobility, the oil become the real king in this time. So this is the real story of initial days of the business. The fourth and my last story is actually about how this oil find its way into military. That was in 1910. Winston Churchill was actually the Home Secretary. And he was actually a socialist by those days at least. He was arguing that we should not spend much on military, but we should spend on our social initiative infrastructure, which is like what we are debating now. But in between, Germans sent a military ship to London. That completely changed his view about the military. And he is the first person, as Home Secretary and later as the head of the government, initiated the process of converting military from coal to oil. Huge resistance. In the entire Europe, it was resisted. People were completely resisting, saying that how can you convert a military with running on an indigenous fuel coal to another oil which is available in Persia. Persia is the present day Iran. That Iran was actually flourishing on oil business. But he insisted, fully realizing the technological advantage of using oil as a fuel in the military ships. And World War I, he has documented, proven that the Royal Military was able to defeat all his enemies because of the power of the oil. The rest is history. Until nuclear powered submarines and those type of things are discovered later, 60, 70 years later, oil continues to be a major factor. And oil is even now driving most of the military, most of the ships. So these four factors of US, how it is military, is the industry. But friends, you can see that, so this industry is actually about innovation, technology, the competition, the challenges, and this has made this industry this far. Srijit, can you just immediately share? We're running short of time. Share that slide, please. So this is, I'm just giving you how this is oil products are distilled, nothing, I will not take too much time. So this is essentially separated, the original discovery by the chemist. It can be separated by heating and cooling. When it is heating, it will convert from liquid form to gaseous form. And at different temperatures, it will form different products. You can see we have got LPG, we have got gasoline, we have got kerosene, we have got diesel, we have got lubricating agents, we have got rotar bitumen, fuel oil. All these products can be distilled. This is what exactly the refinery is doing. We were getting oil both from onshore and offshore wells. We are storing it, then bringing to refinery, separating out into products, improving the quality, and distributing to the market. This is the actual business of industry, and this is the 2.5 trillion investment happened in this entire value chain. Can you go to the next slide, please? So these are some of the major events we have already discussed. The first oil discovery, Kuwait and Saudi oil discovery, but in 1960, probably this is one date the industry never ever will forget. That is the OPEC founded in Baghdad. That is a cartelization. This is what I said. Even though the Mother Earth never gave this equally distributed, so it is concentrated in few hands. In these few hands are coming together and controlling the price. This OPEC continues to be a very big force in deciding because they are keeping an extra capacity and manipulating that surplus capacity to control the price. So even when our demand goes, if they have the capability to produce more, most of the time they will not produce more. And that is why we are seeing such wide fluctuations. So there are cases when price hit $147, and there is a case now recently we have seen in March 2020, it has went into negative. This is exactly what happened when the Colonel Drake drilled the oil first. There was no place to store. That exactly happened in March 2020 when the world went into lockdown. Production cannot be completely stopped. Oil was not there to store, and at least for few days, oil was traded at a negative price. Unbelievable. For even now, it is a real unbelievable. Can you go to the next slide, please? But this is the history. This is exactly I want to show you to this great audience that from 1860, this commodity has gone through many price fluctuations due to various reasons. Some of them are even in this slide. So one thing you can notice is in 1980, because of the OPEC, they have unilaterally increased the price 3-4 times. And that still remember in 1973, the then Prime Minister, Mrs. Gandhi, was traveling in Delhi in a bullock cart, showing complete resistance against these type of activities. So this is the fluctuation. You can see major events in the last 20, 30 years which happened after that. The price fluctuation is nothing to, essentially not to do with supply or demand, but it is essentially with the international events, financial events, including the recent Ukraine issue. Can you go to the next slide? But this is the general thing what has happened. From 1946, you can see always, except for a brief period or one or two incidents, including the last of the graph, the recent COVID time, oil is growing. That was the story so far. Many, many years, 170 years, oil is growing. There was absolutely no concern. Maybe demand centers were shifting from Europe to Asia, but overall oil is growing and touched 100 million barrels a day. It was only 1.5 million barrel a year in 1860 to 100 million barrels a day. It has grown. And it become, as I initially said, a part of all of us. If tomorrow, if oil become dry, there will not be any humanity as on today until we find alternatives. But friends, what really went wrong is the most surprising thing that is there in the next graph. Srijit, please. But this has given this carbon dioxide emission. Initial days, you also remember many photographs we have seen. Now, when oil is taken out and gas is permitted to flare. In India, we have seen, even in Mumbai, that this was a trend because there was no use until 70s when technologies were developed. So nobody was bothered about how much quantity of carbon dioxide is emitted. The humanity was thriving in 20th century by burning more and more oil and had a wonderful life on mobility, plastic, medicines, whatnot, everything we have used it, including fertilizer. But this has come to such a tipping stage. Almost 36 billion ton of carbon dioxide is emitted. You can see a slight drop in the last, that is nothing but 2020 because of COVID. But you see that even though the entire world went for a lockdown, the carbon dioxide emission has come down very, very, very slightly. So the human beings are now surviving by emitting carbon dioxide. This is a real fact. Whether it is from oil, it is from gas, it is from coal. The energy is provided by these fossil fuels. And we reach a tipping point. You know that we already emitted, or the earth carbon dioxide is already 400 plus ppm. And if we cross that tipping point of 420 or 425, which is being said, then people are, almost science is saying that a world is not going to be sustainable. That is the area where we are reaching now. That is the result of this transformation from old way of living to a better standard of living. The consequence is carbon dioxide in the earth and the resultant issues that we are going to face. So how to do, what to do is the question being asked. I know the context in which President Harikumar selected this topic also, what to do. But frankly, nobody knows. Really, nobody knows what to do. Even though many countries are saying net zero emission, some major oil companies are saying net zero by 2040, net zero by 2050. As on today, nobody has got any technology, proven economically viable technology for this transition. But we cannot go like this is a real fact. The science says if you are not controlling soon enough, if it goes to 1.5 degree temperature rise, the consequences could be minimal. It is almost impossible to contain to 1.5 unless some huge technology comes. If it is at 1.8, humanity may survive with many, many natural calamities and events. When this report came up in 15 years back, none of us believed it. None of us believed it. It is, the chamber has recently conducted a talk by Gadgil. We never believed him, but later it proved that what he was saying true. So this is actually the case of this also. We are not able to initially believe, but we have seen series of consequences in this carbon dioxide. And now everybody believes it is too late, but we have to do something. Can you go to the next slide, please? Srijit? So many studies, including the recent COP26, they are actually giving 3-4 opportunities for humanity to come out of it. One is called 1.5 degree pathway. Nobody in the world believes that by 2050, we would be able to almost net zero carbon emission. You know that net zero is nothing but there is an absorption of carbon dioxide by the Mother Earth through forest and partly through the ocean. So that much only we should emit from the fossil fuels, which means that no net addition of carbon dioxide. It doesn't mean that we have to completely stop. That has to be matched with the natural absorbing capacity of the carbon dioxide. We would not be able to achieve it. So these are the 3 possible situations that has been given. One is a delayed transition, means humanity is gone. So if we are not acting in another 30-40 years, the earth would be not conducive for people to live. So there is another opportunity people are saying, which is called an accelerated transition. Accelerated transition is based on the already commitments made by the world, including India, including major emitters like India and China. Then there is a chance that we would be able to limit it to 1.8 degrees. And that may be one option that people are saying we can do. Next slide, please. So there are 2 other fuels which you have to keep a watch in between. This is one reason why we were able to have some reduction in carbon dioxide, because of the advancement of gas, the technology developed for liquefaction, regasification. So gas also became a traded commodity. Gas was actually associated with crude for many, many years. But in the recent last 10 years, we can say that it has decoupled. Gas has its own market, gas has its own price. And this India is also now only at 6% is our energy from gas. We want to make it 15% by 2030. But you can see that gas is growing, but many constraints. Even now the gas price has gone so high that it is prohibitively high that a country like us cannot go to 15% without huge economic impact. Can you go to the next slide? While we discuss all these fossil fuel emission, you can see the coal. This is only for the last 25 years. There is no reduction. We are continuing to use coal. Only thing you can see is actually shifting of coal consumption from developed country to developing countries. Maybe from Europe to Asia, you can see a shift in coal consumption. China gets 50% of energy from coal. US get more than 25% energy from coal. India gets 40% energy from coal. This is continuing. No, we can never ever say goodbye to coal, even though the 20th century, the king coal has given way to oil. Coal continues to be a major factor, and coal emits almost 6 to 7 times of carbon dioxide for equivalent energy emission. So unless we fix it first, unless we fix coal first, we cannot go and address oil. But a country like India, fixing coal is not easy. That is again the same issue which has the Royal Navy had 150 years back. Can you completely do away with an indigenous fuel, cheap indigenous fuel, which we had plenty and full control, to which we don't have here to import? That is a question being asked by many. Can you go to the next slide, please? So this is the issue. This is the slide that what next is the question. So many things are coming up to our mind while we say that electric mobility, that is being short, shared mobility. So probably mobility, if you address around 30% of the carbon dioxide, we would be able to manage. But what next? At least an area where some progress we are doing is this electric mobility. Petrochemicals, we cannot do away with this. It is the PPE that we are widely using in it during this COVID time. All contribution of petrochemical, you cannot do away with it. But again, on single-use plastic, recycling, avoiding plastics, these are few initiatives. There are some evolving energy source, not only solar, the green hydrogen, blue hydrogen. Hydrogen is evolving as a major thing. And on the last Republic Day, our Prime Minister made an announcement about a hydrogen policy being developed by Government of India. The Ministry of Renewable Energy has recently came out with a policy, and Ministry of Petroleum is coming out with a policy, hopefully in another week's time. There we are giving lot of hydrogen trust is being given, and our major industrial houses like Ambani and Adani announced almost $30 billion of investment in electrolyzer and solar so that we can be a hydrogen economy. But we don't know the real benefit or how much R&D is happening in this, how much this hydrogen, which is highly explosive, difficult to control, and very light, it can spread fast, but lighter than air, it may go up, people are saying. So we still to be very confident about this. And in the state of Kerala, I'm very happy to say that initiated this hydrogen discussions almost 10 years back, because when this LNG terminal came to Kochi, they are thinking about making hydrogen because that is a matching with our green and Kerala. So second is net zero, the declaration being done. You say that some companies have already declared net zero. Some are saying 2035, some countries said, but this was a major issue in the COP26, and China said it is 2060. India said it is 2070. So when India said it is 2070, there was a lot of world leaders were talking against India. There are two things. One, we delayed our net zero declaration. Second, we resisted the global plan of gradually eliminating coal. So which means that the countries are not yet able to take a decision on doing away with the fossil fuels. It's very simple. Their development, the stage of development is not good enough to go for such a transition in a fast mode. Can you go to the next slide, the last slide? So this is actually...
Can I just stop sharing? I have to unmute.
That slide is actually about the various countries around the globe who declared net zero. You can see that the green one, very happy that at least one country achieved is our neighbor country, Bhutan. So only such underdeveloped small countries are able to do, few countries. But if you can see the red is the Americas and part of Europe. They said in 2040, 2045. You can see dark black of India and the other black colors of China and India. They are saying it is only beyond 2060, 2070. And Asians continues to have the highest emitters. So once Asian mergers like India and China has got clarity about how we are going to control this carbon dioxide emission, it is extremely difficult to say what is the future of oil, what is the future of coal. Friends, let me conclude by saying that in my view, oil is going to stay for some more years. And India is going to make money out of oil. Simple reason. Europe by design has to do away with oil faster enough. Their emission from oil business has to come down for various reasons. And this is going to be an opportunity for India to sell this hydrocarbon product in that market, since our commitment of net zero is beyond. So as long as this demand or emission cannot be controlled, oil will continue to have the political influence that has. We have seen oil, the multinationals are born out of oil. The boardrooms where strategies, the logistics were all discussed through oil companies to initially start with, even though now it is in the other board. And is there any technology available for other alternate fuels? Yes, solar, but storage is a concern. And any other biofuel and all, definitely, even though we are speaking a country like India with the 1.3 billion people, whether we will make petrol and diesel out of our agriculture product or we will feed our people. These questions will come as we go on large quantities. But one thing is there, at least after COP26 and the initiative of the global platforms, there is a desire for the humanity to reduce carbon dioxide emission, move from oil on coal to other forms of energy. That desire is the only hopeful factor. But at the same time, everybody aware that if we are not managing this transition in an efficient manner, there would be still more inequality in wealth, in lifestyle in the globe. This is what we would see in the next 10 or 15 years, how this transition is going to be managed by the world community. If the transition really happens, this oil, once oil will give way to some other commodities. We don't know which it is, but it can be cobalt, it can be molybdenum, which we now use for the manufacturing of batteries. But the story of commodities as a political force, as a deciding factor in humanity, would continue for many, many more years. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Prasad, for taking us through the history of oil. You were also very kind enough to talk about the present, and you were also talking about the future of oil. And thank you once again for telling us why oil continues to be measured in barrels, because everybody must have heard barrels, but nobody must have known the reason as to why it continues to be measured in barrels. And thanks a lot. We will not hold you back for a long time. I will just ask one or two questions before we move into vote of thanks. See, I would raise the concern of every Keralite. What is your take on increasing motor spirit prices?
Very difficult question to answer because whether it is a producing country or a consuming country, oil is an income to the government. Whether you like it or not, that is a fact. Because this product is inelastic to demand. Even if it goes by 10 rupees tomorrow, you will fill your car until it goes to, I don't know what is that. So this is a constant income. No government would be able to give. But all the importing countries are now in very bad shape, including India. Crude oil prices have gone up. Even though there was an excise duty reduction, further reduction may be required to maintain it in the current price. It is a fact that tax, both state and central tax, contributes a major portion. But no government can do away with it. And also you see that in the producing countries, they are also actually having tax, higher percentage of tax from oil for their, but the prices are low because of their basic raw material is low. So don't expect that oil is going to be a commodity which is going to be available cheap in this transition. It is not going to happen. The prices only will go up. The reason is simple. No investment would come because we are talking about an industry which is likely to die in 40, 50 years, a high gestation period industry. New investment may not come. And matching with that, if transition is not happening, oil is going to be costly, petrol is going to be costly, and government would continue to tax. There is no option at all.
Thank you. How does the industry view the increasing clamor for other sources of energy, renewable energy sources? How does the industry view that?
So industry, President, there is only major concern. There are two ways it can be implemented. That is by rule, by the law. Government can say you go and do it. Second option is make an ecosystem so that this transition can be economically justifiable. So that is the thing going on. For example, I can tell you, there was a recent circular which used to come saying that refineries and fertilizer companies has to convert around 20 to 30% of their hydrogen generation to green. Green is we have to make from solar through water electrolyzer. There are two ways of it. Making that happen now is a huge financial implication to these companies, because now we are making hydrogen less than $2 per kg. If you make at the current rate from solar, it would be more than $4 per kg. So it is not justifiably viable. So this input probably would have prompted the government of India to first deregulate the entire green energy transmission through our system to make green electricity cheaper. That is what the renewable energy policy, and then giving some kind of a support for the industries to convert it into green. So if it is economically made viable, then it is going to be easy. For example, the coal, we cannot do away with it. Coal also can be made green if you are able to absorb or capture all the carbon dioxide and use it or pump it back to the earth. But as of now, it is a huge cost. Technology is not available, huge cost is there. If government can support, R&D is there, probably there would be a time, I believe, that this transition can be made profitable. Then it would be faster. Then it would be very, very fast. Otherwise, industries are going to have a major impact. And I think it is not sustainable at all.
Thank you. I remember even ONGC was talking about coal gasification and all that, which did not take off. Now I'll go to the last question. See, with more and more sources available to drive the mobility demand, do you think in future oil will be only a raw material for the chemical industry?
That is the ultimate thing. That is the net zero scenario, Harikumar, because oil to chemical is some technology being very highly developed. Oil to chemical, so completely to petrochemical. So petrochemical is something which humanity needs. It is not high polluting because recycling so many options. So oil to chemical is going to be the only use of oil. Is probably a net zero condition, but then mobility has to be completely out of it. The Exxon Mobil or Shell, BP, all of them, when they said they are going to be net zero, if you see their product pattern, it is predominantly chemicals, not automobile fuels. Ultimately, it may be the solution, but then oil production would substantially be lower because 100 million barrels a day, 120 million barrels per day is not required. And the immediate impact on some countries, which is having their GDP 80% of oil, and it is definitely a good thing for countries like us who are importing.
Thank you very much. I would now request our Vice President, Mr. Veeramani, to say the vote of thanks, because I don't want to hold you back for a long time. Because questions are more and more questions are coming in. We'll stop at 9:30 itself. And thanks a lot for logging in spite of your other compulsions. Over to you, Mr. Veeramani.
Good morning, sir. Before I move into the vote of thanks, I would like to have one small clarification from the speaker. What is now that you say that the oil is a money spinner for the government, how do you take the decision of the government of India to sell some of the oil wells which are owned by ONGC?
Sir, there is only one reason why government is planning for the new, we call it as a new exploration policy, because I told you, oil is exploration of oil is a high risk business. There is absolutely no guarantee that if you spend $2 billion for drilling a well, the probability of striking oil is very low. It has improved over time because of the technology and science, but still it is low. So that it would be easy for a private concern to have more risk-taking business capability than a public sector company. That may be the reason. It is not because of any lack of technology or competence of ONGC as a group, because they are also access to many technologies and all. But the business being like that, And government of India has got one major concern. We are now only around 4 or 5% of oil is our indigenous source. And 95% is being imported. And one reason for our delayed growth is the dollar we are spending on this oil. So it is their top priority to find out oil in the country. And if you see the history, wherever it is given for private participation, that countries have been successful. But India, I don't know why. If you see the locational advantage, if there is oil in Dubai or oil in Kuwait just across the street or ocean, why it cannot be in India? Maybe little deeper, we don't know. But as on today, there is prospects are very low. And I believe now with the oil going out of the bay, nobody is going to make huge investment in oil exploration and oil production. So there is a reason why government all of a sudden going. It has not recently happened. About 10 years back, they have decided to go out and get private participation.
Thank you, sir. I think I'll move on to the job.
I'll just add, Veeramani, I'll just add, government will make money by taxing. So revenue to the government is not an issue on which they are taking a decision to sell. That is a different issue altogether.
Okay, I'll now move on to the job that is interested to me. I think we started the day with Jain University presenting the advantages and how we are moving to the online classes. And I was wondering a bit how there or what would be the X factor for an online classes to succeed from the normal brick and mortar. And the answer was available at the end of the 40 minutes. What you needed was a good teacher. 175 history of oil compressed into 40 minutes and then explained in such a lucid manner under trying circumstances. I think I must appreciate the attitude as well as the efforts taken by Sri Prasad Panicker to be with us today, right from the hospital premises, to be with us and explain so lucidly and take us through the story of oil. I'm sure that we are all benefited, and probably Jain also has taken a cue from here that what they need for their success would be to have good teachers, probably people, experienced people like Prasad Panicker. I would take this opportunity to record the word of thanks to Mr. Prasad Panicker for being with us today and sharing his time, valuable time with us. I would also take this opportunity to thank all the sponsors for this program. And we look forward to more such sponsors coming, because these days what you need is also some of the sponsors for the programs to be conducted. Having about 40-45 people logging at 8 o'clock in the morning is not an easy affair on a working day. And we should thank all the members who have logged in today to be with us for the CEO Forum meeting. I would end this one with a small quote which I saw, that Stone Age did not end because of lack of stone. Possibly oil age will also end much before the world runs out of oil. Thank you, and all of you have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you
very
Prasad,
much.
and all the best. All the best.
Thank you.
Prasad. Thank you, Prasad. See you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks everybody for logging in. Thank you.
I owe you.